Today, I'm going to show you how to make a frame animation in Photoshop. Hey guys, and welcome to Phlearn. My name is Aaron Nace, and you can find me on Phlearn.com, where we make learning Photoshop and photography fun. And today, I'm going to show you how to make a frame animation in Photoshop. Now, it sounds complex, but it's really pretty simple. We're going to show you how to make a selection around a print using the pen tool. And then with that selection, I'm gonna load it as a layer mask, and we're gonna bring in a few different prints. Then we're gonna load up the timeline and create a frame animation out of different prints, making it look like the image is cycling through different prints. Then we're gonna show you how to export this out for the web and view your animated GIF online. All right, so we're starting off with an image of a print, and we did this for our latest Phlearn tube launch. We wanted to show how there were different prints that you could choose from included in the Phlearn tube. So I came up with the idea of having one picture and rolling through an animated GIF. So now we're gonna show you how to do it. So here's our image we're starting with. It's a hand holding a print, like pretty simple, right? What we're gonna do is we're gonna turn this into a selection perfectly around the print, and then we're gonna change out what's inside of here. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Now, for the most part, it's simple, right? It's a rectangle. It's not that hard to make into a selection. But we do have one area here that's a little bit more complex, and it's right here around the thumb. Now, I know that's a little bit more complex, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the pen tool to go ahead and make that selection complete. So let's go ahead and start off with that. P for the pen tool. Now, if you have any problems using the pen tool, or if maybe you're not super experienced with the pen tool, we got a great episode. Just click on your screen right now. It'll take you to our pen tool episode. You can watch that, become a pen tool expert, and then you can jump right back here. So let's go ahead and start. Now, the pen tool is really pretty simple to use, especially when you have straight lines. So I'm gonna go ahead and make our first point. We're gonna click right outside of here. Now, clicking just outside of my print is gonna ensure that I've got a nice clean selection. So we're gonna start off with that point right down there. All right, we're gonna scroll down to the bottom, and I'm gonna click right down there. There we go. All I wanna do is just click. It's not hard. We're gonna click right over there. Okay, and then we're gonna scroll back up here to the top and click right there. Now, if you need to move your point, let's say you click right there on accident, not a big deal. Just hold down your Control or your Command key. It's gonna bring this white arrow up, and you can move this at any point. There we go. So let's go ahead and bring that right up there. All right, very nice. And it looks like we moved that one too, not a big deal. Hold down Control or Command, click on that point, and move it right back to where it needs to go. That's why I love the pen tool, because you're never really stuck with anything. You can always move your points around. All right, now let's go ahead and come on over here to the thumb, so we can see we've got a nice straight line from, there we go, from the print to the thumb. And now I need to create basically my path needs to curve in a little bit and then back down. Okay, so we're gonna create a point here. We're gonna curve it in a little bit by clicking and dragging, and then click here and drag down that way. And you can see whichever way I drag, that's the way my actual curve winds up curving. There we go. So let's go ahead and bring that right down to about there. Okay, I'm gonna hold Alt or Option, take our little point here, bring it out, because I want to come around for this fingernail right there. All right, and again, drag over. Now we've got one more point, Alt or Option, click on that and drag it right over there. Okay, we're gonna aim it towards our next point, and then we're gonna click here to finish it up. If you see a little pen tool with your little O next to it, that's gonna finish up your pen path. Okay, let's go ahead and zoom in here. I want this to be a little bit better. So I'm gonna hit Command and click on there, and then I'm just gonna click on our little curve here, and we're just gonna do our best to make this a little bit better. We're gonna click and bring this up a little bit more, and there we go. So again, the pen tool is such a good tool because you're never stuck with what you created the first go round. You can always go in and change it. So again, holding Control or Command is gonna allow you to just go in and move all these things around at any time. Okay, so we've got our pen path completed. Now I want to go ahead and turn this into a selection and use it as a layer mask. So to turn it into a selection is really simple. We're just going to right click inside of our pen path if you're still on your pen tool. So make sure you're still on your pen tool, right click, and we're going to go down to make selection. Okay, now you want to feather this a little bit because it can tend to look like too sharp if you don't feather it. So I recommend a feathered radius of 0.3 pixels. Let's hit OK there. All right, so this is our selection now. It's great. We're gonna go ahead and create a new layer, and then instead of loading this as a layer mask on a layer, I'm gonna group this layer with itself. That's gonna become really obvious why I did that very soon. So let's hit Command G to group this with itself, and then I'm gonna click on my layer mask button right down here. And it's gonna go ahead and load my selection as layer mask. So you can see my selection's gone, it's now applied as a layer mask. This is what my layer mask looks like. Alt or Option to click there, and we can see that's our layer mask. So for instance, on this layer 1, if I wanted to grab my brush tool and paint red inside of this group, no matter what I do inside of this group, it's only gonna be visible exactly where my print is, right? Because that's what selections do. They only allow you to affect a certain area. And this, because it's inside a group, I can create a bunch of different layers, put them all in the group, and they're all gonna be restricted to just that area. So that's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna load our prints, and then we're gonna stick them all in this group. Okay, so let's go ahead and load our prints into Photoshop. I'm gonna go to File, we're gonna go down to Scripts, and then Load Files into a stack. Because we got a few of them, I don't wanna open them all individually, we just wanna stick them all together in one stack. So we're gonna hit this Browse key, there we go, and then click on our images. I've got a few. We've got Flood, Light My Fire, Pinup, and Rebirth. And these are all prints that are available through the Phlearn tube. I'm doing my best to not be like super cheesy and promoting our product while we do this, but it's true. These are all available in the Phlearn tube. Okay, so we've got all these 4 different prints, okay? We've got Rebirth, Pinup, Light My Fire, and Flood. So we're gonna bring them into this document. So let's grab our Move tool. We're gonna shift click all these layers and then just drag the layers from right over here into this document. There we go. And now, because we were already selected in our group, you can see they're only visible inside of that square, which is exactly what we want. Now let's go ahead and close this guy out. We don't need that. All right, we're gonna hit full screen here. And now these guys, I'm just gonna hit Command T to transform all of them. We're gonna click on this chain link, which is gonna link the width and the height, making sure we don't skew it in any weird way. So click on this chain link. There we go. And then just grab either your width or your height, and it's gonna bring those down to where you want them. Cool. And then we'll just hold Shift and kind of bring this in. Now I just wanna be sure they're all looking pretty good. So Rebirth, Pinup, Light My Fire, and the Flood. All right, and they really do look great. In fact, in my opinion, they look better than the original, actual photograph of the Flood, because this is, instead of a photograph of a print of an image, this is actually the exact image that we want. Okay, now we're gonna take this one step further. Here you see, if we've got our pinup visible, it looks just a little bit weird right here because there's no shadow under the thumb. So we're gonna just basically create a new layer, use our brush tool. I'm gonna paint black with our brush tool with a really low flow, a flow of about 20%, and we're just gonna use a very soft edge brush. So we're gonna right click and make sure our hardness is set to 0. Okay, and now I'm still inside this group, so anything I paint, again, is still only gonna be here, right? So I just wanna start painting right up here. There we go, to create a little bit of a shadow. All right, let's bring our brush a little bit smaller and go ahead and create the shadow right next to the thumb. All right, that's gonna help it look a lot more real. So we can turn this off and on and see, there we go. Makes a big difference. Now you can move this around, you didn't do a good job or whatever, you can move it around. Sometimes it's it just helps to be move it around and then find the right place. You can change your opacity as well. All right, that looks really good. So now we got all of our layers ready to go, and it's time to create our frame animation. So to do that, we're gonna go up to Window and then down here to Timeline. So our timeline within Photoshop, this is what's gonna allow us to create our animation. So right here we have a couple options. When you open your timeline, you can click this little down arrow here. It's gonna say create a video timeline, which is great if you're importing video clips. But if you're just doing this, we want to create a frame animation. So let's go ahead and hit create frame animation. All right. Now, what we're going to see is actually this is a lot more simple than you would think. We've got our first frame right here. Now we've got 4 different prints, right? So we want 4 frames. So what we're going to do is click on this new frame button here. We're just going to click a couple times until we've got 4 frames. Now, each of these frames right now looks the exact same, right? We've got first frame, second frame, third frame, and fourth frame. So let's go ahead and change those up. It's very simple. Basically, whatever the frame sees in the actual document, that's what makes up the frame. So just change your actual document to how you want it to look, and it's going to be mirrored in the frame. So here on this frame, well, we're just going to go ahead and click on, we're going to turn those layers off, and this frame is going to look like that now. All right, pretty simple. Let's click on our next frame and decide what we want that frame to look like. Well, pinup looks pretty good for there. We'll click on our next frame and we'll decide what we want that frame to look like. And there we go. So now we can just click through our frames, and that's our animation right there. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and make a couple more settings to make this actually like usable. Let's hit play real quick, and you're gonna see it's just like cycled through them super quick and then stopped, which is not what we want. So we need to go ahead and make them last a little bit longer. We want our frames to like stay for about a second. All right, so let's go ahead and shift click all of our frames. Now we're gonna click on this little down arrow where it says 0 seconds. That's the delay between each of the frames. So we're gonna click on this little down arrow, and I'm just going to go to 1 second. There we go. So now they all say 1 second. Now, if you wanted this last one to be like 5 seconds or whatever, so it would hold there for a while and then skip, you can do that too. But in this case, I think all of them having the same exact time works pretty well. So let's go ahead and hit play and see how that looks. All right, pretty cool. It gives us enough time to see what the frames are, but continues to move forward. Now you can see it just stopped. It went through all 4 frames and then stopped. That's because down here on the loop, it has ones. Now you can change this to whatever you want. You can hit other and you can say go 10 times and then stop. Now I'm gonna hit forever here because I want this to go forever. Now let's go ahead and hit play and see what this looks like. All right, and you can see it's just gonna keep on going. I'm not even touching it. It's just gonna keep on going through our frame animation. And this is exactly what we want. So basically our work in Photoshop is done. We've done exactly what we need to do. Now we need to figure out how we export this out and get this on the web, still looking like an animation. Cool, all right, let's go ahead and export this out. So we're gonna go up to File, down to Export, and over to Save for Web. Now, if you're using an older version of Photoshop, it's gonna say Save for Web over here. They've moved it recently to under Export. So we're gonna go to Export and then Save for Web. There we go. It's gonna bring up our dialog box, and here, the most important thing we need to click on here is make sure that you're saving out a GIF. If you save out a JPEG, there's no movement. A JPEG doesn't support animation, and neither does a PNG. You can see there is no animation with these. You can't hit play right here. So let's go ahead and change this into a GIF, and there we can see, now I can hit play down here, and it's going to actually cycle through our animation. So we have a couple more options here. As far as our quality goes, I recommend perceptual, diffusion, and transparency. Just set it up like that, and it's pretty much going to, most of the time it's going to give you your lowest file size, which is important for uploading images onto the web. Okay, now if you need to change your size, you can do that right here. You could change your size. If I wanted to go 500 pixels wide, hit enter. It's gonna go ahead and change that and load it up there. Now your looping options down here, you can choose once or forever. This is the same thing that we chose earlier right down here. So we're gonna click on forever. Okay, so everything looks good to go. Now the one thing that I do wanna do before I upload this, I would just wanna see a little preview of how this looks in my internet browser. So we're gonna use this preview button down here on the very bottom left. Let's hit preview there, and it's gonna open up Google Chrome or whatever you have your default browser set as, and it's gonna show you what it's gonna actually look like in your internet browser. And you can see it's working, right? It's doing exactly what we want it to do, so we're good to go. Let's go ahead and close that down. All right, back into Photoshop, we're just gonna hit save. All right, so we know everything is good. Let's just go print animation.gif. There we go. All right, guys. Now, just because I'm like I want to check to make sure everything that I do actually works online before I load it up and it doesn't work. We're just going to go to Finder. I'm going to go to print animation.gif, and we're going to right click. You can see here, even in Finder, it's rotating through our prints. We're going to right click, open with, and Google Chrome. So this is the actual saved out image on Google Chrome. So now that I know if I upload this to my website or any site that supports animated GIFs, it's going to cycle through these perfectly. All right, cool. And really, that's it, guys. You can see it wasn't too hard to create a frame animation in Photoshop. All right, guys, so now it's time for you to do it on your own. Just remember these key steps. First, you want to make a selection around the area you want to change. In this case, we wanted to load a bunch of different prints, so making a selection around the prints and then loading them in was an obvious choice. We used a layer mask on a group, so I was able to bring in each of the 4 different frames and put them all inside of that group. That way I didn't have to create layer mask after layer mask. We just used the same layer mask for all 4 prints. To make things a little more realistic, we used our brush tool, painted with a black soft edge brush, and made a little shadow under the thumb. Then go to Window and down to Timeline. You're going to want to click on Create Frame Animation, and then go ahead and click the New Frame Animation button a couple of times. In this case, we wanted 4 different frames. All right, then from there, we just mirror the frames to what we see in our Photoshop document. In this case, I'm just turning layers off and on to create our different frames. We went ahead and choose the duration of our frames. In this case, we got 1 second per frame. We choose our looping options to forever, and then load it up for Save for Web. All right, in this dialog box, you want to make sure your file format is set to GIF. You can go ahead and click a preview to see how it's actually going to look in your internet browser. All right, guys, and that's all there is to creating a frame animation in Photoshop. I hope you like this episode. I hope you like hanging out with me and learning some Photoshop. If you do, click on that subscribe button on your screen now. We'll send you free Photoshop and photography episodes every single week. And if you have any ideas or a question about today's episode, please leave it in a comment right down below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much, guys. I'll Phlearn you later. Bye, everyone. Woo! Episode number 955. Done! Right? We've got all of our different images in place. So we've got Rebirth, we've got Pinup, Light My Fire, and we've got the Flood. And the phone just rang. I made that up. Actually, I don't know how many episodes I made. Seems like a lot though. All right, guys, and that's all there is to creating a Photoshop. Nope, that's not right. Episode 10,552. Episode 9,600,452,624. Done.